Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and the stream and another chapter working on that guy there. That's our Mig-17F 148 scale by Ammo. Not Ammo, it's by, yeah it is Ammo. Ammo. Whatever. Yeah, even though I just had my coffee, I'm still not ready to go yet. Anyway, we're on the intro, we'll get into it. Okay, so we are back and we're going to continue on the build here. So didn't really do a lot last time, except we've got our cockpit all assembled. I did look ahead in the instructions just a little bit, and they say that after we've got the cockpit and everything put into the fuselage, we're supposed to add some weight to the nose. So what I did was I happen to have these little stainless steel nuts that I put in my bottles of paint like this to shake them up. And so I took 3 of those and I took a little bit of 5-minute epoxy and I put them into the nose of the cockpit here. Let me change the camera and I'll show you so you can see better here. Okay, as you can see, I've got my nuts in the front of the cockpit there, and that's all dry now and they're not going to go anywhere. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so we got some weight in the nose. It's not a lot of weight, but it is going to be a little bit, and hopefully that's enough. Now this plane is not going to be having landing gear down anyway, so it's probably not going to be an issue. Anyway, so off camera what I did is I painted a couple of little things like the silver that needs to go in here because of the engine that's going to sit in here like this. I wanted to have the silver painted in there first before the engine assembly goes in. Okay, because that's basically our next step. I've got to get part number A2 off of the sprue. Okay, so let's find that. A2, where's our A tree? That's B, so we want A number 2. A number 2 is this guy right here. So let's get him ready. Okay, there's that piece. And he's got a little nub here that's got to go away. And so we're going to clean this guy up and get him ready for installation. So we're going to put our 2 halves of the fuselage together today. Now whether or not that's all I get to do today, I don't know yet. We'll see how it all goes together and what the next step is after doing it. Because to be honest, I just kind of jumped into today's episode and said, hey, let's just go. Let's go. And let's start working on it, and didn't really look ahead anything. Okay, so this guy's got to go in here, and it looks like they don't tell you not to glue it, but it's got a kind of design that says don't glue it and you'll be able to wiggle it around, but at the same time they have it so it's in a notch here. So I don't know. I don't think it's actually going to be movable. Let's just see. Let's do a little test fit here. Do a little dry fit. Put that together. Put this together. Okay, so that's together. Can this? Yeah. If I could leave it like that just so it kind of. You could wiggle it a little bit and just leave it loose. I mean, as long as you've got the glue around it, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, really. But anyway, that is that. So I think it's up to you. You could glue this, you could not glue it. It's really up to you, I think. But I think we're ready to start looking at this. Okay, so our cockpit has a little rail that goes right along here on each side, there and there. It's a little lip that kind of sticks out, and you can kind of see it starts right there, and it goes all the way to the back here. Okay, and those are going to line up into this little line. See, I've scraped away a little bit of the paint, not only for your guys' benefit, for mine also, so I can get the cockpit lined up exactly into that little channel right along in there. And you got it on both sides, okay? And that's where your cockpit lines up and sits in that little spot right there. So if I take this and just kind of line it up, it's a little bit hard to see exactly where it goes, but there you kind of feel it. The channel is very shallow, so it's not like it really definitively sits in there and doesn't move. It's very easy to pull it out of the channel even after you've got it in there. As you can tell just by me moving it around, it's not really locking in, and there it is right there. Okay, and still it comes out right away, right there. Okay, now that leaves this little spot in behind the seat right here, and that's where this guy comes into effect. That is part number B35 right there. Okay, now again, if you're having the canopy closed like I am, you need to shave this detail off of the piece. Okay, I did that off camera, and then I repainted it. I just took a file and I just filed it down so everything's all smooth, so that it's like that. So just smooth piece, and that's going to fit into this little channel right back here like this. Like that. It's going to kind of, we're going to have to sort of push it in there after. So what I'm going to do is I'll put some glue on my cockpit and get it put into his little spot right there. Okay. Let's see which side is going to be better. This side is kind of like, I don't really like sitting in my spot. I'm going to try this side. Right there. That's the spot. That's the ticket, okay? So, we're going to glue it in. I'm going to put some thin glue along that channel. Down in here. And along in this side. Now, they have you paint all this in here, but honestly, this little cavity is going to get covered up by a panel for the main machine guns. Okay, so there's that, and then we have the engine. The engine only goes in one way. One side has a little pin on it like that, right there, right in front of my finger. Okay, and then the other side has a little rectangular tab. So obviously this side here has a little hole for the peg. Okay, and then you're just going to line that up in there and get that into his little spot. Okay, which I found, you know, just in test fitting, is a little bit tricky getting it in there. Okay, so I'll just set this down, and I'm going to get my other glue so that I can fill that little hole in there. Gap, and then line that peg up with that hole. There we go. And how about that first try? And now I'm just going to use a little bit of thin to get on this edge so that it's not only being held in at that end. There we go. Okay, so we have that. We need to let that sit for a hot minute here and let that dry. Because just the way this is. So I'm going to put this over here. We're going to take a look at the next page and see what is involved in the next step here. Put these off to the side for now. So let's have a look at the next step. Next page. And of course, the next page is dealing with the nose and putting the covers on in the front end. So we're going to skip this for now and we'll take a look at our wings. Okay, so we've got a couple of holes we need to drill in our wings. If you're going to have the drop tanks, which I'm going to put on the plane, we're going to do the drop tanks. I don't have the rocket launchers. Okay, the rocket launchers, they come with a separate enhanced detail set. They show at the very back of the book here, right here. You could buy that separately if you want. Okay, there we go. Okay, you could buy that separately if you want, and you get extra tires, you get the seat, and you get yeah, it's just extra stuff, right? So you get your rocket launchers that would go in that spot. But we don't have those, so I'm only going to have the drop tanks. Okay, so we only have to do the holes for the drop tanks. So let's get B1 and B5 off of our sprue. 1 and 5. Let's see, which one are you? That's going to be you two. 1 and 5, these guys. Let's get these off of here. It's funny, you know, I have a very confused fruit fly in my room that seems every time I either open up paint or the glue, the fruit fly seems to think there's food. And he'd be in for a real nasty surprise if he actually landed on the glue or the paint. It's nice that they actually undergated that one peg right there where it was on the sprue. Ammo is nice. They're taking a page out of Bandai's workbook and undergating a lot of their parts on this kit. Now, if you're not sure what undergating is, then you missed my other episode. Undergating is where it connects to the sprue, instead of being on this edge, the visible edge, it's on the side or the edge that's never seen. In this case, the underside here, inside the wing. Okay, so we have holes that are kind of pre-drilled already in this thing. So for our drop tanks, we got to do these outside ones. So if you have the rocket launchers, you're going to do these ones here. But I only have the drop tanks, so I'm doing these. Okay, it looks like just these two, and that's it on each wing. So I have various sized bits in my pin vices already. Let's see, that's a little too big. That's too big, and that's really too big. How about this guy? Oh, that's a good size. Okay, so I've mentioned this before. Don't put your finger right on the opposite edge of where the drill bit's going to go through. Don't do this. Don't go start working on it like this. Because once that bolt goes through, you're now drilling right into your finger. So don't do that. What I like to do is use two fingers and kind of put them so that they'd be in between. So when this comes through, when it goes through, it kind of goes boom in between my fingers. And then I don't get poked, I don't get stabbed, that kind of thing. And I still get to put the pressure on the plastic where I need it. Okay? And we'll drill through. There, see? Just like that. Do that for this one. Not a lot of pressure, because you know these tiny bits, they're pretty sharp. Okay, Now, of course, I got some burrs on this side, but that's okay. We'll clean those up, go the opposite way. And what I like to do is take my knife and I'll go in there and I'll just twist. And that's going to put a little bit of a chamfer on the hole also, but also clean up these edges, just like this. And done. 2 little holes, ready for my drop tanks. Okay, so let's repeat that on this side. Go through, and last one. And we're through. Okay. And just to make sure. Up a little bit, put that little chamfer, and make sure the edges are clean, no burrs, all that fun stuff. Okay, done. Just like that. All right, so holes are drilled. What's next? Next, C3. So C is clear. Why they want clear, I don't know. Because, well, I have this primered, so, and it's going to be clear, but I'm going to paint it silver, so it's really, what's the point, right? What's the point of clear? It doesn't really do us any good on this particular spot. Kind of like it's a little detail that you're never going to see, to have this little clear lens right here. They're not calling out for it to be painted any particular color. Just to drop it in there like that. And since it's going to be painted over, I'm just going to use regular glue on it. And call that done. So it's not going to matter at the end of the day. Okay, so this clear piece is put on. So they want the insides painted aluminum on B4 and 54. And then A32 and 31 are going to go in for our flaps. So let's get these off the sprue. Cockpit is probably glued strong enough that I could probably put the other half together on it now. Probably. So that's B4 and 54, but we also need parts off of A31 and 32. Which are going to be, that's 3 and 4. 31 and 32 are these guys here. So this is 31, and then 32 is this guy. We're going to put him down over here. Okay. So again, these are undergated. means we've got nubs on this side, which if you don't clean them up, you're never going to put your two halves together properly, because these are going to interfere. What undergating does do is it saves you from having to clean up an outside edge. Now what sucks is when they put a nub on tiny little fragile parts like these. These little antennae, I have a tendency of breaking off on darn near every single build I do that has these things. They're not antennae, they're, what do they call them? Pitot tubes, usually is what they are. And I break them off almost every time. At some point in the build, they break off on me. Darn near every time. Which would be nice if they made like even on kits where these things are a separate piece and you can put them on at any stage you want. I put them on at the end of the build. I take some pictures, and while I'm taking the pictures, I'll bump it and break the thing off. Like almost every time. There's very few airplane kits that I've built over the years that I wound up actually still months later have the pitot tube on the plane. It's very rare for me, and it's just the way it is. Hopefully these survive, because this is a commission build. The client is paying me for this, and so I want to make sure that everything survives in the assembly. Once it's in his hands, I don't care what breaks off. As long as it's all together when I get it to him. What he does with it is up to him. Okay, so our wing halves. Our flaps go in here. Now these are rectangular things, so even though these are a separate piece, you're not going to be able to have them flap up or down. That's just the way they are. Okay? And then we're going to take this wing and sandwich it in there. I guess technically we could just put the wing together first and slide this in. Looks like we could. Just slide it in, yeah. And there we go. Okay, that looks good. So because of the little tabs on the inside here and here and here, I want to put some glue on those first. Change my glasses. I'm tired of lifting my glasses up on my forehead over and over and over and over and over and over on the past, over the course of an hour. Okay, so right there and there, there. Might as well do that in there. This pin here. Okay. Line this up. And then put this guy in here. Now I'll get some clamps to go around, hold this together in some key areas. That's not going to work there. Right there, it'll work. Okay, I want to run some glue along this edge. And some other areas. Now I put glue onto that little thing, but there's nothing in there right now. So I need to get that glue out of there. I thought that was going to be one of the points, but it's not. Instead, we just run it along this edge here. Okay, so there's this wing. Okay, so do the same with this guy. Now that I know not to put any glue onto that tab, now I could run glue along here like that. There we go. Put some glue along that edge and nothing even contacts that. Okay, and we put this in just like so. Get in your home, there you go. All right, and just like the other side, put some clamps on. Add some glue along this edge. And in here. All right. So, that's this part done. Now they want you to paint this in here aluminum, but it's all going to be the same color of this as the plane anyway. In my build, so you're not going to be able to tell. When this thing's all silver and shiny, the fact that this is now in here is aluminum, this is of course shiny aluminum. Well, what's the difference between aluminum and aluminum? The only difference is it's aluminum. So anyway, let's go back to our fuselage. Okay, let's go back to this guy. We have this little piece that needs to get slid in here. I think I can just put it in after and push that down. So what we're going to do is put the other half of the fuselage on. We're going to make sure we don't forget our little flap, our control surface here. Make sure that's in. I'm going to put some glue on some points and get this glued together. Put some glue in here on this spot where the cockpit's gonna contact, and in here on the engine, and back here where it kind of contacts, and line it all up. And she fits together really nice. I'm gonna clamp back this tail together. Fits together really nice. Bottom half here, I'm going to have to do a little bit of pressure, I think, and hold that together like this. So maybe I'll have to add some tape to it and give her a bit of a squeeze, or I could put it in a clamp. If I use one of my clamps that are big enough, it might be too much pressure and just squeeze the crap out of this thing a little too much. It might be okay. Alright, that's going to hold. So I'm just going to add a little bit more glue to make sure along our edge here. And along this this edge. I already did that side, didn't I? It's this side that needs the glue. Just making sure my cockpit is actually situated properly. Okay, let's get this clamp back on there and hold that in place. Get some glue up here and along our top edge. You know you've got a good contact when this extra thin glue doesn't go down into the crack at all. Back here and here. Okay, so that leaves this part a little bit, you can move it just a hair, and that's all right. So there's our cockpit put together. Okay, now this guy, he's going to pop in right in the back here. As long as I can wedge him in there, I'm happy. It's possible that I'm not going to be able to. Because of the seat, I can't get him in there. So now I've got this all glued together. I can't get it in there, so I'm going to have to trim this down and trim this down. Very minor detail, because I can't get it in there to wedge. Close, but not quite. I might have to pry this apart to get this in here. So this should sit flush. Yeah, see, as I push it down, we're prying the cockpit, we're prying the two halves apart, but that's okay. It's got to fit, and it's got to fit flush. Okay, it's in there now. Let's get this clamped again, and we're going to re-glue everything. Okay, because I pried everything apart in order for it to glue together. Fortunately, that was just one of the tail clamps and not anything serious. That was just this one. It's no big deal up here. This is already together. Okay, so that's it. So remember, if you can, put this little piece in behind the seat first and then put the two halves together. And I want to get this, I want to eliminate that little gap, but I can't. As much as I would love to, that's okay. All right, so let's go back. Now that this is together, we can go back and see. This is now done. Okay, that's finished. So now we move on to this. Now, depending on which version you are building, you're either going to use A14 or A7. And it says A7 is only for limb 5. So let's see, what's limb 5? We've got to go back to the front of the book to see all of our variations. Limb 5 is the Polish Air Force. looks like that is the only one that uses it. So of all of these, the Lim 5 is the Polish. So if you're building that one, you're going to use that piece. So we're going to use A14, okay? Because we're doing Russian and we're not doing Polish. So A14 is this one. Okay, and it's going to go up here on the top, just like this. It's not the best fit, but it's pretty good. Even though I've got everything's lined up the way it's supposed to be, I've got a bigger gap here than on this side. Now there's literally nothing I can do really. I could try and move it around and equalize it a little bit, but I wind up having no gap here and it's kind of sticking up a little bit. But it's okay. And then we have our nose cone, A5, this guy here. And this little piece right up here, it's hard to see because, you know, we got blurriness. That guy that I'm pointing out right there, that's supposed to go up in the center. The other problem we have is the front end of this thing doesn't want to line up. This should be nice and squeezed together like this. So, how do you do that? How do you squeeze your nose together the perfect amount for it to hold and be flush? Well, the only option really is even though this looks like it's supposed to go in the center, because of your little cutout here for it, that's where it goes, and that's where it ain't going to go anywhere else. So the bottom half here wants to flex out and not be flat against it. So I need to squeeze that in there to get that to be nice and flush. So how do you do that? Especially on a curved surface like that. We could try rubber bands. I could put rubber bands around there. Let's try that. Let's take a couple of rubber bands here. The more rubber bands we put, the stronger of a hold it'll be. Keep this piece flush, even though it's kind of going to get moved around a little bit. Let's put one a little further down. I find rubber bands are sometimes a little bit easier to work with than clamps, because the clamps just want to slide off and not actually hold anything. Whereas the rubber bands, well, they're rubber, so they stay a little better. Let's have a look now. It's better, but it's not enough. Let's put another one on here. See, I also have to tuck it in underneath here. Try as it might, it's not enough. It's close, but not quite. Maybe one more. Put another one on there, get a little bit more grip. Move these down a little further forward. I want to get that side as flush as I can before I put glue on it. It wants to do this now, right? But that's okay. Let's put another rubber band on there. One more. And we'll bring it down to the front. That. Okay. Now we're going to add our glue. Okay. Glue is going to go on now. Get this to a point where I'm happy to hold it in its spot. And glue it. Alright, so now I need to hold this probably for a good 5 minutes. So I don't really have the use of my right hand now for a little while. But we got quite a bit done. I've got to hold this and just wait, right? That's the problem with this one, is I'm just going to have to wait now. And just hold on to that and let it be. So that's where I'm going to finish up and call it a day. So we got our fuselage together, we've got our wings glued together. So let's have a look, just see what's next. So next time we're going to be putting our wings actually onto the fuselage, including our rear wings, and we'll be working on that. Okay. The other thing I need to do is, because this thing is going to be displayed in flight, there's going to be panels such as our air brakes here. Those are going to be closed. There's a little panel on the bottom, got to put that on. That's B41, that's going to go on there. Our covers for our landing gear need to go on. All those little things, they're all going to be closed up. All those panels are going to be closed up. So I don't need to worry about details like assembling the landing gear and stuff like that. On this particular kit, I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I invite you to check out the description box below where you're going to see some links to my stuff, things like my Instagram and my X channel and stuff like that, and my Twitch, and where you can watch me live on Twitch. And if you watch me live, you can actually talk to me live and yeah, ask me questions, tell me I'm stupid, how funny looking I am, whatever you like, right? Because that's the way it is. Be a keyboard warrior. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching, and thanks for all the support and everything, and the new subscribers. Speaking of which, if you haven't subscribed, there is that button down there, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe and the like button. Leave a comment down below if you feel like it too. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you again, and we'll see you all on the next one.